You know when something happens and you think, yeah, this is hard, but it's not too bad. And then over time, with distance, you look back on it and you think, oh my God, yeah, it was that. Hello, I'm Kim. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new here. Again, I'm Kim. This is the Coffee and Craft chat, where I rock up. I drink coffee. It's attached to the coaster, and I've got my winter mug today. The craft element of the Coffee and Craft chat. I haven't quite got a finished heel on my sock. I have the start of a heel flap, and I've got my safety line in there because some frogging has been done. Because of course it has, it's a sock. The trouble is, with the heel, I can't multitask. I can't listen to my podcasts or watch TV or talk, so there won't actually be any knitting during this video because I will mess it up. So that's the craft. And the chat, yes, the chat, I thought it would be a bit of fun, seeing as we are in December somehow, to look back over the year gone past, 2025, and I thought I would just share some of the biggest mistakes that I've made this year. We'll stick with biggest ones because if I list everything, we'll be here forever. And I actually had to go through my membership videos in order to remember everything. And it's actually been kind of nice to go back over the year and it's been almost like a diary of what's been going on, mainly in the business, but I do talk a little bit about, I touch on personal topics over there, not in huge detail. I'm sure you can understand why, but yeah, it was just nice, and it was a bit of an eye-opener, I'm not gonna lie. Okay then, first off, a quick slurp of coffee and then we'll dive in. Okay, so the first mistake I did was right at the beginning of the year, and that was to not reopen my Etsy shop. I had reasons. I did do a video on this fairly recently. It's that one, and but it's fairly recent, and it just goes into more detail about why I almost quit Etsy, but in the end I didn't. And essentially, I remember starting the year feeling very burnt out with the platform and just very sick and tired of it. It wasn't doing anything for me. I mean, granted, I'd pretty much given up on it by that point anyway, but I found that even when I was doing something with it, it just wasn't giving me enough in return for my investment of time. I'm sorry. I've got quite a lot of starlings in the garden and I'm wondering if I can spin you around to show you. And then we'll move on, I promise. So this is kind of what I'm seeing in the background whenever I film a video. And there were loads of starlings in the field bothering the sheep earlier, so I guess a few of them have flown over into the garden and found some food. Anyway, let's crack on. There we go. Sorry about that. I get so distracted by the birds so often, and I just want to remind people occasionally that I'm not making it up. There's lots of flappy distractions outside of my window. And for anybody getting frustrated with me for not getting to the point, welcome to the Coffee and Craft chat. So yes, I was burnt out with Etsy and I just rocked up. I took a break, that was it. I took a break last Christmas. It was lovely. I'm really hoping I get one like that this year. And when I came back in the new year, I realised I hadn't missed Etsy at all, and I just didn't want to come back. And at the time I only had supplies stuff on there and it wasn't doing very well, and I just thought, I'm not going to reopen. That, as it turned out, was a mistake. Why? Because when I did reopen, within weeks of reopening my Etsy shop and not doing anything to promote it, I got sales. Not of the new items that I'd listed, I should point out, but the older things that I had in there from before the Christmas, they just started selling again. And I have found, touch wood again, that this year Etsy has been pretty good at just looking after itself and just sort of chugging along quietly in the background. It doesn't bring me in enough to pay my mortgage, but it brings me in enough to make it worth my time. So yeah, that's good. And I also mentioned in the last video that that's actually increased since August, which coincidentally is when I stopped selling to the US because of tariffs. So that's weird, but also not unwelcome. Again, I don't know if that's of use to anybody. Actually, if you are in the UK specifically and you sell on Etsy, I would be really curious to know if you've noticed the same, because I'm going to be talking more about this in the membership video, but essentially my my Etsy visits have decreased, but my sales have increased, and this has been consistent for the last 3 months. Interesting, no? Anyway, let's move on to the next one, or we will be here all day. This was also right at the beginning, and I'm sorry about the light. It looks like it's about to pee down, and it was lovely and sunny a minute ago. Digressing again. The beginning of the year, I set myself financial goals. Why? I know better than this. I don't like to set financial goals that are completely out of my control. Why? Because they're completely out of my control. The whole point of goals is that they're meant to be something that you can aim towards, that you have some control over. And my revenue hasn't changed. So far, where are we filming this? The start of December, my income is pretty much bang on what it was this time last year, through fewer sales. So one of my financial goals was to make a certain amount of sales, and I'm not going to hit it this year. So that would suggest that I've been making less of an income, but that's not the case. And I had less time to work. Many of you who've been here for a little while will know that I was homeschooling at the start of the year. I'm no longer homeschooling, so I have literally been given the gift of time. It's beautiful. But at the time I was struggling with all of that, and that was hard. So the fact that I've been able to keep up with what I was doing last year, watch me go in 2026. I mean, I hope I haven't just jinxed it, but the next one, this has got to have been my favourite mistake of the year, just because it's so funny. You can't see any in the background. No, you can't. I've got some hanging up back there, but I made a collection of jumpers, sweatshirts and hoodies with sort of daisies on them, and I love them. I made myself one. I'm very proud of them. They didn't sell at all. But I learnt a lot from that collection, and I don't regret it. Even with what I know now, I would still go back and make that same mistake again, because I think enough good came from it to have made it worth my while. And I got a cool jumper out of it, so that's always nice. What's next? Started leaning too heavily into clothing. Oh yes. Okay, let's talk about that. I followed my hyperfixation hard. Now here's the thing, I don't regret it, because clothing is something that I've wanted to get back into for some time, but I didn't know how I wanted it to look this time. For those who don't know, when I started my business, I was making and selling dresses, skirts, that kind of thing. I used to occasionally make bridesmaids dresses. So yes, I spent too much time on my new hyperfixation, and that was at the expense of my old favourites, the things that were doing really well. Do you remember when I said I reopened my Etsy shop and the old favourites started selling again? Well, these are the things that I neglected, which now that I've said that out loud, yes, I know, sounds so stupid. It was, but sometimes you just gotta let yourself have fun with your business. And I do think that I allowed myself to do that more this year. And I think it was really necessary, because I was falling out of love with Beechtree Handmade, if I'm being brutally honest, but I don't think I really appreciated just how much until I allowed myself to do this, and it's really helped. It's made the biggest difference. I'm back in love with my business again, which is just as well, because running your own business is hard. Next one. Oh yes, I only listed my supplies on Etsy. I mentioned this before, which I think was great for me 2 years ago, but I think now is the time, especially since this year sales have been coming in consistently and have increased since August. I hope that continues, but with Etsy it's hard to tell. So I want to see this pattern repeat for longer before I start to trust it. However, I do think I'm at the point now where it's okay to have things on Etsy as well. Now, for those of you who are wondering why I didn't, simply put, some things sold better on Etsy and some things sold better on my website. I don't know if you can see them. I can't. When I edit this and lift the shadows, you might be able to see them. But back there, I've got a bunch of project bags on the wall, and those are the sort of things that I sell on my website. I've actually listed all of the bags and all of the jumpers on Etsy now, and my thought is, even if they don't sell, hopefully it will help to bring more people into the shop. So we shall see. So those were probably my biggest mistakes. I do just want to balance this out with some of the things that I did right. The most important thing is that, as I've mentioned, at the beginning of the year and right up to September, I was homeschooling. So my kid was home all of the time. And this is also why I am particularly proud of what I managed to achieve with my business, because the fact that I was able to do that with everything else that was going on in the background, I did a bloody good job. Well done me! I am really excited for next year. I'm excited and quietly cautious, because obviously everything is continuing and there's a lot of challenges. But next year will be the first year that I have the time. I didn't have the time before. I was so limited with what I could do. I'm excited to see what I'm capable of. And this brings me to the other thing that I'm really happy about, because from September, when my daughter went back to school, I just went nuts. I just dove straight into work, and the first month was literally just catching up with all of the things that I'd fallen behind on previously. So there wasn't much in the way of progress forwards. It felt more like just catching my breath and getting everything back to where it should be. The other thing that I was really happy with, I think I've mentioned this before, but I can't remember where, so I'm just going to say it again, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I nailed my launch strategy. I finally figured it out. And then the other thing that I got right, I've touched on this, is that I allowed myself to experiment and tap back into my creativity again, which was a game changer. And then lastly, for a bonus mistake, this is one that I've made very, very recently. Because I have been focusing so much on the last shop update, which has just gone up, I pretty much was working through September, October and November, and I felt like that season, autumn, just went by and I didn't notice any of it. I do feel like I was very disconnected with the season. It's had an impact. I've felt very adrift and without an anchor, and it's how I always feel when I don't get outside often enough, or when I just feel disconnected to the seasons, which I know sounds woo, but it's my reality. So that's also been a big mistake, but a big lesson for me this year. I need to make sure that I get out of work mode and just look around, pay attention, get out of the house. So next month in the membership, I'm going to be reviewing the goals that I set myself this year. I might set myself some goals rather than leave it till spring. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. But I certainly won't be setting myself any more financial goals, that's for sure. That'll be next month. As far as this month goes, the November vlog has just gone up, and I'm talking very honestly about the launch that's just been and how that went. So if you are a member, go and watch that if you haven't already. And if you would like to watch it, you can join the membership and you can hear about the things that I don't talk about here. Which reminds me, YouTube has recently told me that iPhone users can join using their phones now. I mean, I didn't realise you couldn't do that before, but hey, there you go. And I will stop talking to you now and stop getting distracted, and I will hopefully see you again next week. Ta-ra.